This man was one of the most evil serial killers in history, and I had just heard about him today. So have y'all ever heard the story of the Brooklyn vampire or the Gray Man and how he would kill children and then eat his body parts? Yeah, I probably should go ahead and give a trigger warning for this. So this man's name is Albert Fish, and he seemed like a normal grandfather-like figure in the community, but under that appearance was a very evil man, one of the most evil in American history. So Albert was also known as the Gray Man and the Brooklyn Vampire, and he preyed on children across the state of New York in the 1920s and 1930s. According to reports, he not only murdered young children, but he would also mutilate them and cannibalize them. Unbelievable. He would eat them. He would then even write letters about his evil acts and eventually confess to some of them. Reportedly, Albert would later claim that he killed children in every state, but only about half a dozen were ever 100% confirmed that he killed them. His most well-known and most infamous crime was the abduction and murder of a 10-year-old little girl named Grace Budd. On June 3rd of 1928, Albert visited Grace's home in Manhattan, her family's home, and he was claiming that he was seeking work for their teenage son, but that was all fake because he was really there for the daughter, Grace. He then pretended he wanted to take the little girl to a birthday party, and he then got the trust of her parents, and they agreed, but they would never see their daughter alive again. After this, her parents searched all over the state for years trying to find her or hoping to get answers. However, 6 years later, they received a very evil handwritten letter. It was Albert here, and he described in vivid, disgusting, terrible detail about how he murdered Grace and then ate parts of her. He told the parents that he cooked their little girl's flesh and ate it, and of course the parents were left horrified. He wrote the following words: "On June 3rd, 1928, I called you and brought you some cheese and strawberries. We had lunch. Grace sat in my lap and then kissed me. I made up my mind then to eat her." He then said he took Grace to an empty house in Westchester he had already picked out, and when they got there, he told her to stay outside. He said she then picked wildflowers, and he went upstairs and took all of his clothes off because he knew if he didn't, he would get blood on them. He said when he was all ready, he went to the window and called Grace, and then he hid in a closet until she was in the room. He said when Grace saw him naked, she began to cry and tried to run down the stairs, and even said she would tell her mama. Albert then told the details. He would first strip her naked, and he said she was kicking and biting and scratching. He then choked her to death and cut her into small pieces so he could take those pieces to his room and cook them and eat them. He claimed it took him 9 days to eat her entire body. Unreal. So he sent this letter to torment Grace's family, but what he didn't think about was the fact that police could use the letter's stationery to find him and track him down, and he was eventually arrested at a Manhattan boarding house. He was then interrogated by police, and it was said he quickly admitted to what he had done. He admitted he dismembered Grace with a handsaw at an abandoned home. He said he then prepared a meal out of her flesh, and that was included with onion, carrots, and bacon. Oh my gosh. He then told authorities that he kept Grace's bones in woods and then scattered them behind a building. Weeks after this, cops were able to find Grace's remains. But it was then learned that Grace was not the only child he killed. In 1924, Frances McDonald would disappear in Staten Island, and witnesses reported they saw a gray-haired man lurking around the playgrounds when she went missing. The body of Frances was later found in a wooden area, and she had been beaten and strangled. He reportedly choked her with his own suspenders. Now, when he was questioned about this crime, to begin with, he tried to deny it. But he later admitted to this murder after he was convicted of Grace's murder in 1935. Now, Grace's family was not the only family of kids that he had killed that he would torture. On February 11th of 1927, 4-year-old Billy Gaffney and a friend of his vanished from their apartment block in Brooklyn. The friend of Billy's was soon found unharmed, but there was then a frantic search for Billy. When that friend was asked what happened to Billy, the friend stated the boogeyman got him. To begin with, it was said police suspected another serial killer, but they reportedly got a break when a man saw little Billy's picture and recalled a man trying to talk to Billy. His body was eventually discovered the next month in March, and he was wrapped in a burlap sack and lodged between a wine cask on top of a rubbish dump. Authorities said it appeared Billy had died due to a blow to the face. He had a fractured jaw, and then 4 teeth in the lower jaw and 2 teeth in the upper jaw had been knocked out. Furthermore, it was said the lower part of his leg was covered in a bandage, like it was covering a cut or a scratch, but there was no wound to indicate anything on his leg. Albert would later describe in a confession letter how he got little Billy naked and then tied his hands and feet and gagged him with a dirty rag. He said he then whipped him bare until blood ran down his legs, and he cut off his ears and nose and slit him ear to ear. He further said he took out Billy's eyes, and by then he was dead, so he stuck a knife into Billy's stomach and held his mouth to Billy's body and drank his blood, which is how he got that vampire nickname. He further said, like with Grace, he cut up Billy's belly and made stew out of it, out of his ears and nose and pieces of his face and stomach. So on March 11th of 1935, his trial for Grace's murder began, and psychiatrists said that Albert's religious delusions and obsessive sadism drove him to do what he had done. The trial also talked a lot about his childhood. His father was reportedly in his 70s when Albert was born in 1870, and his father died at the age of 5. Albert was then placed in an orphanage when his mother admitted she couldn't care for him. It was said while he was at the boys' home in Brooklyn, he was tortured and physically abused. He later said that he was there in that home until he was 9, and that's where things got bad, started to go wrong. He said they were unmercifully whipped and that boys would do things they never should have done. Now, by the time of adolescence, he had developed some weird tendencies, like inserting needles into his stomach and his groin, and this was later confirmed by x-rays done at the prison that revealed over 20 needles lodged inside of him. It was also said he would beat himself with paddles and burn himself and write disgusting letters about asexual torture fantasies. He reportedly received asexual gratification from these acts, both on others and himself. And this was all said to be due to his childhood and what he went through. He further said he had received visions telling him to punish children, and he said that God commanded these acts. He also had tough marriages and issues throughout his adult life as well. With all that he went through, his lawyers tried to convince the jury that he was legally insane, but they reportedly rejected that theory, and in January of 1936, he was reportedly executed in the electric chair, and witnesses said he showed no fear during that moment, and he even helped the people who were trying to get him in the chair and electrocuting him. At the time of his execution, he was the suspect of multiple murders, but they were never 100% confirmed. So as you can see, he was definitely one of the most evil men in all of American history. And I can't believe I'd never heard of this man until today. I wonder if in today's court he would have been handed a different verdict or sentence. We tend to go way lighter these days, unfortunately. Had y'all ever heard of his story before? Let me know in the comments. And for more true crime and crazy stories, be sure to follow and subscribe on YouTube.